The US economy shrank by 0.3% in the first quarter of this year, the first drop for 3 years. US stocks opened lower in response to the news. Economists say GDP fell because of a surge in imports as companies rushed to bring in foreign goods before President Donald Trump imposed his tariffs. Posting on social media, the president told people to be patient, adding that the slowdown had nothing to do with tariffs, but was rather what he called an overhang from his predecessor, Joe Biden. Let's get more on this from our business correspondent, Jens Korte in New York. Welcome, Jens. What's your assessment? What's caused this contraction?
I feel the main reason clearly were imports in preparation of the tariffs. If you look at imports statistically, because those goods are not made in the United States, they get contracted from those GDP figures, and imports have been up in the first quarter by a stunning 40%. But that was not the only reason. We also saw, for example, federal spending in the past couple of years that has been also a big driver for growth in the United States. So that also was one factor. So lower federal spending that put pressure on growth here in the United States.
So is this news likely then, do you think, to influence the president's tariff policy?
Well, I mean, we did hear from the CEO of Caterpillar. They had weaker quarterly numbers out today. And Caterpillar at least is hopeful that we will see some trade deals and that this actually might take some pressure off. And we already saw it a good week ago when we had a lot of pressure on financial markets. And that's when the tone out of Washington got a bit smoother when it comes to the relationship with the Federal Reserve, when it comes to the relationship with trading partners like China. So clearly we don't know, but all this turmoil on financial markets could be, or could persuade the US administration maybe to scale back some of the plans that we're seeing right now.
So I guess the big question then becomes, is this a blip or the start of a downward trend?
Well, Phil, I would say we see more and more anecdotal evidence that there is pressure on the US economy. We do hear that from a couple of US corporations who are very hesitant to invest at this point. Clearly, what is always important for the US economy and other economies as well is the labor market. If people feel confident to get a job, keep their job, maybe get a pay raise. I mean, that is definitely helping the overall mood. And we shouldn't forget, the US is still a country that depends on consumption and not on exports. And we did get some fresh figures from the private sector today that only 62,000 jobs got created in April, at least job creation, but it was only about half what economists had expected. So we get the big labor report on Friday, but there are definitely there is anecdotal evidence that the US economy is not doing that hot at the moment.
Okay, so if people are nervous and keeping their hands in their pockets and businesses are scared to invest, does this look like the US might slide into recession?
The R word, Phil, is definitely out there. I mean, technically speaking, to be in a recession, we would need to see 2 consecutive quarters of a negative growth. So now we already got quarter number 1 in negative territory, and then we will see what happens in the current quarter. I mean, we all know the main tariffs are paused till the beginning of July. So that could mean that a lot of corporations might remain hesitant to invest at this point, and that could maybe cause a recession here in the United States. But obviously, we have to still wait and see.
Okay, thanks, Jens. Business correspondent Jens Korte in New York. Well, here in Europe, meanwhile, the Eurozone economy grew faster than forecasters expected, even though it's still dealing with the fallout from Donald Trump's trade war. Overall, the 20 countries that make up the Eurozone saw their economies expand by 0.4% in this first quarter. The biggest of those, Germany, grew by only 0.2%, but even that was higher than expected. First quarter inflation also appears to have slowed.